Hello, good morning. Welcome to our talk, Living in Your Website While You Renovate It. We're going to share the story of how we build our design system, the challenges, the surprises, and what we learn along the way. Many of you likely have or will have design system experience. Just in case you aren't familiar, there's a general definition up there. But really, it's not just the recipe book for your products. It's the whole darn kitchen, and maybe even the crew. What about home renovation experience amongst us? Maybe you've bought an older house that needed work. Maybe you took on some renovation work yourself. Maybe you even lived in it while it happened. Sound familiar? Anyone been there? Yeah. Personally, I'm there right now in my own home renovation. And when you share your stories, the challenges, the lessons, the surprises along the way, you realize how common these experiences are. And when you realize, we also realized how surprisingly similar to our design system experience in the journey those experiences are. We're going to share with you today the renovation story of our website up to this day. Here's a quick look at today's journey. We'll start with a short intro to our company and the house metaphor, and then we'll do a visual tour of how our house evolved into what it is today, then why it's time for renovation. We'll revisit some of our past attempts at a design system, then we'll dive into our live-in renovation, our design system Clockwork, and finally, we'll wrap up with some key lessons and what's next. We're here today from timeanddate.com. You might have used us if you work across time zones. We're a small company, under 50, but we run a very large international website, and we're based right here in Stavanger for us. Most of our traffic comes from the US, Canada, Australia, UK, India, Germany, but everywhere else really. We offer free online tools, information, and as the name suggests, our core business is in fact time planning tools. But surprisingly, we do a lot more than that. Like our astronomy services, we even have 2 in-house astrophysicists. It's a pretty cool place to work. I'm Jeremy. I started at Time and Date 14 years ago, back in 2011. Today, I'm the design lead of an awesome team of 3.
And I'm Andy. I'm the front-end lead of 6 front-end developers and software testers. And I joined 17 years ago now. And I'm from England.
Yeah, so together, we've seen the company grow from just a handful of all-rounders to a full structure with team leads and product managers. So that context, let's begin. What do we have here? This is our website, timeanddate.com, but imagined as a house. This is the house metaphor we're going to use for today. What do you think? It's fun, right? It's quite playful, a bit bohemian, something about it. All those extensions, styles, different materials, they actually tell the story of how we've grown online over the years. Our boho house is quite popular. Daily, we have more than 2 million unique visitors, over 10 million room visits, or page views, by humans. There's a lot of people coming and going, so plenty of people still fondly regard our old house. But say you want to make some improvements. Say some of today's visitors have accessibility needs. A wheelchair out the front won't really help. Not when you've got larger foundational problems. What to do? As homeowners, you might be thinking, since we love the location, maybe knock it down, start again fresh. Brand new house, modern design, modern tech, sounds amazing. Nice. But a website, that's really risky. Our website relies on very established SEO, and we can't just demolish it all. And what about the visitors? How will they react to the chaos? Will they love the leap into modernity from their old house? Redesigns actually have sunk larger companies. So, no, our changes, our changes will come as careful renovations, while we and our visitors live in it. So, let's take a look at this house and give it some context to how it became what it is today. As we mentioned, we're an older house. We settled on the internet back in mid-1998. Our website predates some of the very big names online, like Google. But if we go back 30 years before we were even a website, our CEO, Stefan Thorsen, was studying at the university in Trondheim. For fun, he had a simple student webpage, and on that page, you can already see the roots of timeanddate.com. Just behind me, there's a wall clock and a calendar. So let's begin online the evolution of our home, referencing our homepage. Timeanddate.com went live in 1998. A pretty modest little cabin keeping the time. Back then, it was pretty simple. Table layouts, cell backgrounds, that kind of thing. Simple technology of the web. Around 2000, the website extended with a few more services, a few blue trimmings. Later in 2000, a few more services, grey finish, some small decorations. 2007, our data starts growing, so is the house. There's an impressive observatory that houses our astronomical data, sun and moon times. We have weather and logged in users by this stage. 2010, our first primary menu appears. A designer joins the company, so no more back-end designing. Well, maybe a little bit less anyhow. Our designer introduced a colourful logo and a lot of green. 2011 is where I come in as the designer. Skeuomorphism, where you imitate real objects. That was the thing at the time, defined the web. Our brand starts taking shape, colour pops from the logo being used around in different theme sections. So for the next 10 years, we shifted our focus inwards, improving and expanding our content, services, and especially the astronomy stuff. We also invested efforts into iOS and Android apps. So amazingly, this homepage had a longevity of 10 years. 2020 to 2024, in the COVID times, there's a little refining of the services and their functionality. Our house has just a little bit of a visual tune-up, flat design, once again taking over the web. So we're coming up to 2024, and we've had 26 years of growth and evolution and building. We've become home to a lot of data and services and tools. A lot, over 100. And in addition to all these services and databases, the editorial and research team have grown our library of informative content. More than 2,000 articles, news articles, evergreens, 8,000 holiday articles, 500 fun holidays. Today is Mole Day, everybody. Happy Mole Day. We have a database of over 6,000 places, 800 states, 251 countries. And then we further extend that with 11 million geonames. With all this, we create locational specific content such as current time, weather, time zones, DST, clock changes, sun and moon times, tides, night sky maps, stars, constellations. And then our observatory has become a bit of a leader online in astronomy content, combining that location data with astronomy tools, visualizations, graphics, covering in detail solar, lunar eclipses, planetary transits, meteor showers, comets, equinoxes, and solstices. We even host live streams and publish blogs. It's adding up to a lot of content, but then we do it 2 more times for a Norwegian.no site and a German.de site. But wait, there's more. There's a shopping cart, subscriptions, products, iOS apps, heading towards retirement, and then there's a full separate API website for the developers. In summary, what I'm getting at here is it's a huge and complex site, or house, should I say. And with our small company resources, growing one piece at a time, you can see how it's evolved into the house it is today. So over to Andy for the next chapter.
Thank you. These illustrations look great, don't they? Jeremy drew them all, by the way. They look really good on the big screen. So that's how our house came to be. Decades of building, extending, and tinkering. Each part added its own character and style. But our house was in need of some renovation. And when you've been expanding for more than 27 years, some of those rooms just don't quite line up anymore. And that's where we noticed our first big challenge, the fragmentation. So let's go inside for a moment and have a look around. And we'll see what all this years of growth have done for the inside. So it's a fun house. It's a little mysterious. Every hallway leads to somewhere unexpected. Some rooms feel familiar, and some feels like you step back in time. One of those examples is our calendar room. It's one of the oldest parts of the house and one of the first spaces we ever made. And it's still one of the most popular. It's been redecorated a few times, but there's nothing more than a fresh coat of paint on the trimmings. But underneath, it's the same layout it's always been. The walls haven't moved, the plumbing's original, and every small change you want to do takes longer than it should. And over here's the countdown room, another classic. It's been part of the house almost as long as the calendar. Again, it's had a bit of paintwork, not much, but the foundations were left intact. Though the section has been later expanded to have some fun illustrated countdowns as well. And this one as well is the date calculator room. As you can see, a few updates to it over the years, a few new changes in the wallpaper, slight rearrangement of the furniture maybe, but underneath it's the same foundation it's always been. And by now you've probably seen the theme. These rooms all work, and I can tell you they're very popular, they're reliable, but haven't really evolved with the rest of the site. And this is just a few of the rooms, but the question is, why is everything so hard to update? And the short answer is the foundations. Many of the oldest parts of the site were built in a way that made perfectly sense at the time, strong and reliable, but never really built for the kind of flexibility we need to know today. Back then, the people who built the structure, the back-end engineers, they decided how the rooms looked. Every wall, every door frame, every piece of furniture was poured right into the concrete. In simple terms, the front end, the part that the user sees, had to be done by the back end. So if somebody wanted to move a table or change the layout, you needed to get a jackhammer. Or rather, a back-end developer. And we all know they don't exactly like being dragged out of their caves into the daylight to move some furniture around. So it's not built for open plan living. It just makes every change an architectural project. And when you step back and look at the house, it becomes clear every room has its own personality. Not all rooms suffer from the same problem as the ones previously shown, but some bring their own. Some designers or front-end developers can freely change whatever they like. No need to wake a back-end developer. But even that just adds to the fragmentation. Some were built by developers, others by designers, and a few by whoever had the tools at the time. For visitors, this means the experience changes from room to room. Some areas feel fresh and modern, while others feel like you've gone back in time. For us internally, this means that every team has to solve the same problems in their own way. New patterns, new styles, new ideas, over and over again. Each space works fine on its own, but don't always feel like they belong in the same home. It's a collage of good intentions that never quite line up, all fragmented. And every time you wanted to build a new feature or add a new service, it was like putting up a new extension on the house. But we really never had time or the resources to go back and bring the older rooms up to the same standard. It was just too much work or friction to do it. So over the years, Small fragments of different eras have just stayed, all quietly coexisting on the same site. It's a living museum of our own design history. And on some pages, it was a bit like geology, but instead of cutting through and studying the sedimental layers of the history of Earth, it was 20 years of design history stacked on top of each other, quick fixes of forgotten experiments. Some pages like this, having them all on one page, layers of internet history. So we looked at the house itself, the structure, the layers, the history, but houses don't exist without people to maintain them. And that's where the next challenge appears, designing at scale. What started as a handful of people tinkering in a few rooms has grown into teams, designers, developers, editors, product managers, all trying to share the same space. And as the house fills up, the need for structure and shared understanding becomes even more important. Everyone needs to know not just how to work in the house, but how the house itself works, and how it should look and how it should function. And when you only have a few people living in the house, it's easy to keep things consistent. Everybody knows where the paint is or which walls are load-bearing. But once you have multiple teams working in different rooms at the same time, things can get rather creative. Suddenly the house feels less like one home and more like a collage of personal styles. So that's what's happening inside the house, the cracks, the growing teams, the coordination challenges. But outside the house, things are challenging too. And as the web doesn't stand still, even as we're wrestling with our own walls and wiring, the neighbors are busy renovating too. Rivals are always ready to outpace and outshine you the moment you slow down. Time to market keeps shrinking and expectations keep rising. And when your house is this complex, even a small delay can make you look dated next to the brand new place down the street. Another pressure comes from how the web itself makes money. Online advertising is the main way we keep our lights on. But that world has been changing. With third-party cookies disappearing, the cookie monster there, ad blockers spreading, new privacy expectations tightening what's possible, and not to forget economic pressures. We always try to keep our ads respectful, just a couple of them, never the loud or invasive kind. But when blockers treat every site the same, and some web publishers bombard you with adverts, we still get hurt. We need to be prepared for how our house will adapt. And for a site like ours, search visibility is everything. But in recent years, search engine optimization has become much more than just keywords. It's about the user experience as well. With things like Google Core Web Vitals, they now judge how fast and stable and responsive your pages feel. In other words, design and performance have become ranking factors. So things like layout shifts or sluggish pages, they don't just frustrate your users, they push you down the results pages. At the same time, the rule book itself keeps changing. Tighter laws on accessibility, consent, and privacy, protecting and enabling the users around the world, but there's big fines if you do not comply. And it won't be a talk in 2025 without mentioning AI. Suddenly, the whole neighborhood started transforming. Search, content, design, creativity, all being reshaped by generative tools. And for a site like ours, built around knowledge and trust, this is a real shift. The way people find information is changing, and the way they expect it to look and behave is changing. And it's all moving at a very fast pace. If we didn't fix our foundations now, we'll never be able to adapt what is coming next. So when you put it all together, the complex structure inside and the growing number of people trying to maintain it, and the storm of changes outside, renovation stopped being an idea and became a necessity. We didn't need another layer of wallpaper. We needed to fix the foundations, to make our house easier to change, easier to live in, and ready for whatever comes next. So we need to ask ourselves what kind of system would actually allow us to move forward, to be able to adapt and evolve. We needed something with consistency, a single visual and interaction language across teams, scalability so we can bring in more designers and developers, and we needed this separation so people designing and building the interface can be empowered to actually work on the interface. And throughout the years, we've had a few renovation attempts and a few forced starts. Looking kind of back, a real attempt to get consistency was around 2012, in fact, before we even really knew what a design system was. We knew things were just getting messy, and we really needed a better way to keep our styles consistent. So we started to componentize what we could, start using better CSS tooling and naming conventions, which forces you into a certain mindset and to group and label styles. It helped, I guess. It gave us some structure and some common styles, but we're still painting room by room, with no central plan, no documentation, or no shared foundation, no instructions on how to put things together, or even when to use them, and no enforcement, so every room was still getting decorated differently. By 2016, design systems starting to appear everywhere. A lot inspired by this guy here, Brad Frost. He suggested that interfaces could be built from small reusable parts, atoms, molecules, and organisms. Atomic design, he called it. We love the idea, but we focus mostly on the styles and the patterns, not the systems that connect them together. So markup was being copied and pasted, and we still needed to get the backend guys up to make some changes. And updates to the component structure would have been a manual job, trying to find where it's been used and replacing it. We'd made progress, but we hadn't built a connected system yet. We built a tidy box of spare parts and some assembly instructions. So we started over again, 2021 now, this time with a mission to fix one of the biggest problems: the lack of separation between back-end and front-end. We wanted to empower the right teams to make the right choices. No more waiting for the back-end team to emerge from the depths just to move a button. First we had him as a sad face, but back-end complained that they was actually happy about this, so we gave him a happy face afterwards. Back-end could focus purely on the data and the business logic, while front-end and design were free to shape structure and iterate how we liked. No more concreted in furniture. Components can now be rendered whenever, all using the same shared foundation. So the first time we felt like we finally cracked it. But of course. And then anyone who's renovated anything knows what comes next. You start putting up the floorboards, knocking down the walls, and you find a leaking pipe, or you've intruded on a family of mice having a nice time. Renovations rarely go to plan. We thought we had nailed it, but what went wrong? For starters, buy-in, or accurately, the lack of it. Design systems started as kind of like a side project, something we squeeze in between product demands and maintenance. But the truth is, the design system is the work. It's the invisible scaffolding that holds everything up. We were learning the hard way that a design system isn't something that you do on the side. It's something the organization has to believe in. And I think anyone who's tried to renovate their house in the evenings after a day at work can relate. And of course, without proper buy-in, we didn't get the proper resources either. We had one developer working split time between his product work and this extra project. Design help was borrowed, not dedicated. Everybody cared, but nobody had the hours, so progress crawled. Design system didn't just need people who believe in it, but it needed people who can work on it without having to sneak in between product deadlines. And this was actually a very big one for us. With limited time and no dedicated team, the design systems just started to grow in a very gradual but somewhat dangerous way through product work. Each product team built what they needed in the moment and added it to the system as they went. We got more components, more adaptation, but every piece was designed around a local problem, not the bigger picture. It was progress, but it wasn't holistic. We were building from the middle out, shaping the system around short-term product needs instead of long-term design principles. Everyone was solving their own problem perfectly, but we still ended up with slightly different chairs in every room. But for a moment, we did feel like we had done it. We had components, a style library. It looked like a design system. We had that single source of truth that we was after, giving us the feeling that this was in the right path. And as I was putting the design system to use, this was the impression that everyone was having. And was having this things are happening kind of moment, that products were starting to put it to use. But that was just a false optimism. So yes, we had the components, but this component that we've made here it was completely different to this identical component that's being used by another product. We hadn't even agreed on tokens. They were just proposed and not even being used the same. And one of the biggest cracks of appeal could have prevented a lot of the problems was the lack of governance. We'd built components, but we hadn't checked if it had something similar already, or even if we needed this component. Without shared rules of ownership, everyone did what made sense in their own corner of the house. A design system without governance isn't really a system, it's a library that quietly forks itself. And that's exactly what was happening. And all we was doing was just creating more fragmentation. And this is one of our moments of clarity. I recommend watching this video here. This was from Hatch 22. And the speaker talks about these false optimisms, about systems collapsing under upkeep and the need for governance and the reorganizational buy-in. We thought, that's us. It was strangely comforting, realizing we wasn't broken, it was just typical. So we took this conversation to management, and we said, look, this is happening to us. And to their credit, we listened. And that's the moment things began to change. It started to shift from being a side project to a company-level effort. So when we started out, we thought we knew what we needed, that consistency, the separation, the scalability. And those things were right, there just wasn't enough. Because a design system isn't just a technical framework, it's an organizational one. It's not just about structure, it's about sustainability. So we added a few more requirements, which we learned the hard way, which is governance. We need to control what happens, otherwise the system quietly unravels. Dedicated time and resources. You can't renovate on evenings or weekends forever. It needs people who can actually work on it. And finally, shared ownership. Design systems, design, product, and engineering, making choices for the whole house and not just their own rooms.
Okay, so now let's take a look at our current design system, Clockwork, our methods, our challenges, our solutions, and our trials. After the reality check and some honest reflection, we got company buy-in and we set off to build a design system for Time and Day. We had everything we needed. We had a name, Clockwork. This felt perfect, like a perfect fit. We had a team. We had all 4 designers, 4 front-end developers, and a project manager. We had dedication. It became our main company project, not the side gig. We even had a little bit of extra help on the side, thanks to Boitano and Neatly for learning us some design power. Even that little bit of outside help in fresh eyes just gave us confidence, especially when you've got stuck before. So we'd assembled the strongest force we'd ever had, and all that was left was the plan. And our plan had 3 stages: foundation building, component building, and trial migrations. So let's begin again. Start on the right foot, working as a team with a clear plan. And the first step was the foundation building. This is the stage where you make your design choices, your design tokens. And honestly, it was a hard step in the past. It's so tempting to aim for that ultimate solution right away and get everything perfect in one go. It felt like a biblical-sized task, overwhelming and paralyzing. How can you choose your design tokens now before you've even made the components? You can go down rabbit holes, lose weeks. You're trying to plan for every scenario, and you still have to get everyone to agree on this perfect decision. So, yeah, nah. This time, we tried something new for us. We tried fail-fast approach. Break it into small, manageable decisions, go for good enough, and proceed. Test, iterate, and refine as you get a bigger picture forming. With that mindset, we gathered what we already knew: our design principles, cohesion, hierarchy, proximity, balance, less is more, that sort of thing. Our branding, imagery, illustration, editorial tone, inclusivity guidelines and accessibility, international use and regulations, and then we did a general audit of what we already have. With all this, we were ready to make our design tokens. So these are the actual variables behind the scenes, and we had our fail-fast mindset to stop us getting stuck. And perfect timing, Figma had just released native token support. So we did our primitive tokens, raw values for radiuses, fonts, space, sizes, these sorts of things. Then the semantic tokens, where we give these variables meanings, primary color, heading font. It was still tricky work, some mental gymnastics sometimes. But remember back to the house and all its contents. So it was pretty tricky work, but overall it went surprisingly smooth. We mocked things up fast, used placeholder designs, did some early testing of the tokens, and we kept moving forward. And once the tokens felt solid, it was time for the fun part, the actual building of the components. We started building essential components, organized them into libraries, which made our computers much happier, the processors. And then we did a pretty standard process. We did the audit, reviewed everything we had, looked at the differences of why. We did the collaborative kickoff, defined it, what it is, what it does, where it lives. Did the design in Figma, the right structure, states and tokens. Moved on to implementation, the handoff to front end to fill our storybook libraries. Finally, we documented somewhere that was visible to the whole company with a consistent tone and structure. So they're done. All your essential components are ready, but they live in Storybook. We needed to put them together on the actual website. So the next stage was the trial migration stage. We rolled out new components selectively in low traffic, low risk areas of the site, and seeing them in the wild mixed with the older components, a little bit of technical debt. There's plenty of surprises. Stress testing, but it's where the renovating an old house, things never go as planned factor kicked in. But the fail fast, we knew we'd have to circle back, pick up the details we'd sped over. We'd stress test and update anything that didn't float, basically. During component building, we had to revisit some earlier components, sometimes go all the way back to the foundations. In migration trials, we spotted new issues, went back to the components, sometimes all the way back to the foundations, made some small tweaks, adjustments, and that's when our office meme was born. One does not simply component. It felt sometimes it felt like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The test, iterate process, but without this fail-fast approach, we'd probably still be stuck chasing that perfect start. About circling back, you sometimes realize that something fundamental was missing. In this case, a simple container that held everything together. A humble box controlling the backgrounds, the borders, the radius, the paddings. Yeah, and this photo is a very telling photo. It caught us mid-brainstorming the box. Totally not staged. It's just one of those classic moments that you thought would be easy. That wasn't. One does not simply component, Mr. Boromir. After some rounds of circling back, the drift started to creep in between design and front end. Our Clockwork rendering setup had become a bottleneck for the developers, slowing their progress. Meanwhile, design kept on iterating on the components and the tokens. We moved fast, maybe too fast, and skipped some implementation reviews, perhaps. And soon designers and developers had different versions of the same thing. Our content editors who were trying to use the components were really confused. What's the source of truth? So one big thing the team did learn in a hard way is a token name change is so easy in Figma. It might make total sense, even a spelling correction, but it's a total pain for dev. It breaks everything. And boom, Clockwork had misalignment within itself. So we pumped the brakes, ready to take this as another lesson. Good ideas can quickly turn into actions. A padding tweak here, a rename there, suddenly you've got drift. And without a solid governance process, things fall out of sync. But we built one, Clockwork Governance and Idea Discovery. A simple process where every new component, update or request had to go through. We also upgraded designers to Figma with branching, so we had a solid checkpoint, and it was a real game changer. Front end and back end also, so front end and back end also had a new renderer solution, and it unblocked them too. So let me give you a look at Clockwork. Here are a few of our services we've performed this trial migration on. This is the Roman numeral calculator before, after, on this day service. A general index page for the time zone tools. A solstice and equinox tool. Anyway, it's just a quick sneak peek. There's definitely some unification forming there. It's a small amount of change, but it's pretty exciting for us that have been around building for a while. So back to our house in 2025. Our homepage has become Clockwork, mostly. Small parts of the site are still running on the Clockwork, the design system. But as mentioned, Clockwork was never about exploring and redesigning and a rebrand. We're following this minimal disruption, low risk migration plan, and old and new parts of the site will need to coexist for a little bit longer yet. Getting as much of the site over into Clockwork will remain our focus into 2026, and it's a huge task, but we're building something that's more adaptable and compliant for the future. So you can perform little tricks like switching to dark mode. And what's next for Clockwork? So we've strengthened our governance process. It should just keep improving, reaching a potential through exploration and user testing. So our components, patterns, templates will keep iterating and rolling out across the site. And AI, we've started using a Clockwork trained bot to help us guide our decisions and guard the truths. Check with the Clockwork agent, what does it recommend? And with that, back to Andy for some closing thoughts.
So yeah, that's the story of our renovation so far. So before we wrap up, I just want to give a few closing thoughts. It's easy to say, why not just tear it all down and start afresh? And a clean slate sounds wonderful. No legacy code, no messy history, just shiny new walls. But when you start over, you erase everything you've learned from living in the old house. All those creaks and quirks that taught you why things work the way they do, it's gone. You end up with a brand new house that nobody quite knows how to live in, and you're not even sure they really wanted it. Renovation, on the other hand, lets you learn as you go. You can fix one room, see how it feels, adjust the layout, and improve the next. Every change teaches you something real about your users, your tools, and your team. Starting from scratch gives you that kind of perfect house on day one, but it doesn't fit the people who have to live in it. Renovating lets the house evolve with you. And design systems aren't just about components. The technology matters, of course, the tokens, the components, the libraries, and the patterns, but they're just the bricks. What keeps the system standing is the people. Governance, trust, and shared principles, these are all the things that make it sustainable, because a component only works if people can agree on how to use it. Guidelines only live because people believe in them. And the design system only evolves if people feel safe to question and improve it together. We learned that building trust and shared ownership takes as much care as building components. And buy-in is non-negotiable. Design system can't survive on enthusiasm alone. It needs commitment from leadership, from teams, from everyone who depends on it. Because without real buy-in, you'll never get the one thing the system really truly needs: time. Time to plan, time to align, time to build properly instead of just patching. Once we had leadership on board, everything changed. The system stopped being a side project and started being treated as part of our core infrastructure, something worth investing in. And when you finally have the buy-in, the next thing you need is focus. A design system cannot live in the background of 100 other priorities. It needs dedicated people and protected time, not borrowed hours squeezed between projects and deadlines. The real progress came for us when we stopped treating it as a side project and started treating it as its own initiative. That meant planning cycles, accountability, and the space to make decisions properly, not just reacting to the latest request. And once you have time and focus, the next challenge is resisting the urge to make everything perfect before you show everyone. Design systems are living things. They grow through iteration, not just through grand reveals. We learn to move quickly, test ideas early, and treat every wrong turn as useful data. Fail fast doesn't just mean to be careless, it means to learn before it gets expensive. And if you wait to get it right, the web will change before you've even managed to launch. And let's be honest, this stuff isn't easy. Design systems touch every part of your company. They surface every inconsistency, every assumption, and every shortcut you've ever taken. And fixing those things takes time and patience. There are moments when it feels like you're just not moving at all. But this is normal. It's part of the process. It just takes time. Every renovation does. So don't mistake slow progress for failure. And technology keeps shifting. New tools, new expectations, new building codes for the web. AI is reworking workflows, accessibility standards keep evolving, and user habits keeps changing faster than we can document them. But that's okay. The goal isn't to have a finished renovation. It's to keep the house flexible enough to keep changing, ready for whatever comes next. So that's where we are, still renovating, still living in the house we built. It's not perfect, and it may never will be, but it's getting stronger, more flexible, and feels like a home we can keep improving together. Thank you very much, and good luck with your own renovations.